Thank you very much, Dr. Andrew Nathan, for the insight, brilliant insight, and also the encouragement and support to the global movement and also the regional movements. So next speakers, who is live and then will speak live directly in the Zoom rooms, Dr. Jose Manuel Ramos Horta. He's the 1996 Nobel Peace Prize laureate, and then former president of Timor Leste, and also was appointed as a United Nations Special Representative and head of the United Nations Integrated Peace Building Office in Guinea-Bissau, or UNIOP-BIS. So I think that is three most easy spell about his long list of biodata. Dr. Horta, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you may be. It's a pleasure to join you today with just few reflections and observations. It's not a speech. I have some notes, but I will have to start from my own country. And I would say with some pride in that the numerous multiple challenges we face from day one of independence in 2002, challenges of healing the wounds of the people, of the soul, of the heart, of the body, challenge of rebuilding physically the country from the ashes of the violence of '99, and at the same time walking halfway to normalize relations with Indonesia. And the post-war to Indonesia responded positively, and ever since, there are no two countries in Asia that have better relations than Timor-Leste and Indonesia. We know how across Asia, sometimes in spite of the countries being members of the same regional organization, they have unresolved land border disputes. They have historical rivalries, some dating back to World War II, Korea, Japan, China, Japan, India, Pakistan, China, India, and so on and so on, exacerbated by the rising of China and the temptation of a rising power to assert itself. And China expand its maritime boundary to the 9-dash line, and with multiple overlapping claims, and with extra regional powers increasing their own military presence to challenge the Chinese claims on almost the entire South China Sea. And we see an elderly European power, United Kingdom, United States, Australia, coming together in a new security arrangement, specifically aiming at containing China. The same strategic thinking that goes back to the 60s and didn't contain China. What China was in the 60s, in the beginning of the containment, and what China is today, is obvious that containment hasn't produced the desired results. So all of this happened at the same time as the pandemic exacerbated an already difficult world economic situation. Because I read papers, studies of the economic conditions in Europe, in the United States before the pandemic. And there were already some very severe, serious warnings about a possible global recession. And then came COVID-19 and accelerated the globalization. And who are the victims of it? The victims are the countries on the countries that never benefited much from globalization, the poorest of the poor that made progress, at least according to the UN, the World Bank data. In the last 20, 30 years, there have been improvements, but hundreds of millions have been thrown back into poverty, into extreme poverty. As my friend Kailash Satyarthi, Nobel Peace Prize, India 2014, I'm the chairman of the steering committee of the Nobel laureates and global leaders on child labor and child slavery. Child labor, child slavery has increased dramatically, and tens of millions of children have not gone back to school since the pandemic. And where is the international solidarity? Where is the humanity that we talk about? We are the same humanity, this common humanity. With Muhammad Yunus, Nobel Peace Prize 2006, we campaigned together to make the vaccine a global common good, so that for once in our lifetime, the powers that be would show humanity and would show wisdom in making the vaccine a common good, free for all. And yet, a pharmaceutical company like Pfizer made in one single year $30 billion. The same pharmaceutical companies and universities that received billions of dollars, either from the United States, from the European Union, from France, to manufacture, to research and find vaccine for humanity. So they didn't spend actually much money of their own. They didn't invest much of their own, except maybe Pfizer, to produce a vaccine that could be made available for the third world, for the poorest countries. Well, this has not happened, is not happening. Yes, we appreciate the effort of COVAX. We appreciate the effort of some countries that pour money into COVAX, European Union, Australia, Japan, United States. We cannot deny that. But the reality is that while Europeans are already in the third dose, in the booster vaccine, less than 10% of Africa has access to the vaccine. I'm not complaining as an Timorese, because we have make available, we have been helped by Australia, by Portugal, by the European Union, and New Zealand to access vaccines. And the vaccines in Timor-Leste are completely free, including for foreign residents of this country. Absolutely zero discrimination. Even if you are here without papers, without documentation, you are, as we call it, illegally. I hate this expression, illegal people. Well, they're human beings. They are legally on this planet. So, and anyway, vaccines free for all of them, including for rich and poor in Timor-Leste. And I have to say the good news in Timor-Leste is that there's we had deaths for several weeks from our COVID, zero deaths. We have actually now 8 mild active cases, and the majority of the people have been fully vaccinated, and the vaccination campaign is continuing. On the democracy front, I don't know whether quoting Freedom House or any other Western think tank is obligatory, and they make them more credible, because we all tend to do this. We always resort to Western, European, or American think tanks to validate our status. But anyway, Freedom House at Timor-Leste ranks as #1 democracy in Southeast Asia. maybe a cynical person with sense of humor would say, and who is the second democratic country in Southeast Asia? Or would add, well, with those kind of neighbors you have, it's not difficult to be number one. And maybe tragically, sadly, it is true because of the setbacks in Southeast Asia, setbacks in across Asia. And I have to say, I don't need Freedom House. I don't need any other Western institution to tell me where we are in terms of democracy. But the reality is, in 20 years since independence, we have not failed our constitutional calendar. Elections are held almost mathematically on the 5th year of the previous election. There has not been challenge to election result, even when the gap separating the winner and the loser is very narrow. We are an imperfect democracy, like democracy has shown to be very imperfect. And we have no Timorese president or prime minister has gone to the lengths of Donald Trump to challenge elections. The court validate the election result and everybody has accepted. Zero pressure, prosecution of our journalists, of our social media, the zero political prisoners, zero torture of anyone, etc., etc. So I'm very proud of our achievement. We are literally an oasis of tranquility, of imperfect democracy, because I'm careful to say it is an imperfect democracy. There have been attempts here in this country to bypass the constitution, to bypass the procedures in the parliament, how a speaker is elected. And there has been an attempt at usurping extra power by some senior leader of the country. But we have a zero political violence. The issue that I wish to talk to you about today, again, as I've done repeatedly, is we must step up the effort in support of the people of Myanmar. There is no greater challenge to democracy today in Southeast Asia, if not in Asia, than the abuse by the Tatmadaw, the Myanmar army, against their own people, against children, women, artists, politicians, elected leaders of Myanmar. I'm pleased to note that Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, and have shown courage in blocking invitation to the dictator of the head of the Myanmar army to attend the ASEAN summit. This is unprecedented, and which shows that in spite of the negatives that we are talking about, the other speakers have talked about the setbacks of democracy, actually the position taken by Malaysia, by Singapore, by Indonesia, and even by Vietnam, Philippines, in the vote in the UN General Assembly, condemning the coup, well, it shows the extraordinary progress in Southeast Asia, in ASEAN countries, that at least some of them no longer tolerate military incursions into the political arena, overthrowing elected democratic leaders. So congratulations to Indonesia, to Malaysia, to Singapore, to Vietnam, to the Philippines. Although in the Philippines, we know, and my good friend Gus McLeod, who is also my mentor, and Gus is my mentor of more than 20 years. would tell us how is situation in the Philippines is. But still, I'm more positive, and usually because I have lived through some of the most extraordinary challenges in the last 50 years of humanity's history. I've seen all. And so I would say I'm not in despair. I'm not pessimistic about the current regional and global democracy conditions. Demagogues have a short life. Demagogues that made false promises, demagogues who are false prophets, they have a short life, particularly in this 21st century. I conclude by saying to all of you, Asian Network, Democracy Network, thank you. Some of you, I see some of you, particularly Gus, with gray hair, completely gray hair, from the time when I first met him more than 20 years ago. Thank you for your support for Timor-Leste all these years. Thank you for standing by with the people of Myanmar, who are very much in my heart. I know Myanmar well. The first human rights program, training program conducted in Myanmar ever was done by me in July '94 in Manipur, in the base camp of the Karen National Army. So I'm very familiar with the struggle of the people of Myanmar. In this country, in my home, I received Dr. Sein Win and many other freedom fighters of Myanmar. So please step up the support to the democracy movement in Myanmar. I thank you, and God bless you all.
Thank you, Dr. Horta, for very for the inspirations speech. Of course, among us, I think in here there is, if you can see the comments or the chats, there's so many people appreciating and really supportive for the Myanmar movement for democracy at the moment of times. Okay. I hope you will be still with us because we are just ending the opening sessions, and then we will take some times for what do you call tributes for one of human right and then democracy activist who just recently leaving us, and then he's now rest in peace. For doing that, maybe I would like to invite Savina. So Dr. Horta, I wish you can accompany us until the end of the sessions. And of course, we would like to hear more your input or suggestions. Savina, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Ichang. This year was quite a difficult one as we lost many of our democracy leaders.
Great. We want to thank Kier, who actually put together that tribute for us. We still can't believe that Chito left us. He was actually supposed to speak on day 2 and really introduce and interact with the youth, and he was so excited to do it. He was looking forward to it, and we're very saddened that he wasn't able to be with us. He will be dearly, dearly missed. So we'll go on and start the plenary sessions, plenary 1. Before we go into that, I want to share again how everyone could interact with us. You could go to menti.com and hit that code 5610192. We want to hear from you.